in business, approaches to staffing. When we're talking about staff, we're talking about employees. That means the workers within the organization. So most of the time, businesses, they find a way to define who their staff are. That means they want to know, they figure it out and they decide to choose the kind of approach they want to use with their staff. Some businesses, some employers, they treat their staff as assets, and while others will treat them as cost. So how do they approach this? How do they approach it if they see or they consider their workers as an asset, and how do they do when it comes to seeing their workers as the cost? That is what we want to go to talk about today. So approaches to staffing. Businesses have different approaches to their staffing methods. Some see staff as assets while others as cost. Businesses that see their staff as assets will value their employees and ensure they don't leave the organization. Because they consider their staff as assets, they would always want to keep them for as long as possible. So what are those things that businesses would do or employers would do if they see their staff as an asset? The first one, acceptable payment. They pay them, they reward them, they pay them acceptable remuneration. That means they pay them the salary that befits their status or their function or their role. Do you get the first point here? So because they treat staff as assets, they will pay them duly. That is the point. Do you get the first point? Do we get the first point, please?
Yes.
The second one, reasonable holiday and sick leave. They allow them rest. So they wouldn't, as soon as the workers feel like he or she needs a rest or an holiday, they accept it. Instead of saying, oh, if you go for holiday, we're going to deduct from your salary. Do you understand the point here? The third one, a conducive working environment. That means the environment is ideal. So they ensure that whatever is needed to make the environment or the working place conducive, they ensure they do it. That's when they see their staff as an asset. The next one is training. They invest on training. Most of the time, training is expensive anyway. So most of firms, they do not want to train their employees because they know as soon as they train their employees, the know-how or the knowledge of employees would increase or would improve, which means they become employable and attractive to other employers. And as soon as you are being trained, your knowledge stays with you. They can't cut off your head if you are leaving the organization. Do you get the point? So whatever you have learned stays with you. As a result of that, businesses do not want to spend so much on employees because when they do train employees become attractive to their competitors and they might choose to leave. Do you get the point here? So they wouldn't want to train employees. But when they see their staff as assets, they wouldn't care about that. They will still train them because it brings about human capital. Do you get the point here, please? Do you get the point, please? The next one, recognition. Because they see their staff as assets, they applaud them. So at any point in time, employees do the right thing, they applaud them. And even when they make mistakes, they still, they see it as part of their learning process. Do you understand it? The next one, effective leadership. Before we go into effective leadership, we have what we call a leader. A leader is that individual who tells us what to do, guides us on how to do it to achieve a set of goals. So mostly businesses do not understand the difference between having a manager and a leader. So you can have a manager. Not all managers are leaders, but all leaders seem to become managers. Do you get the point here? So most of the time, businesses approach their staff or their employees using managemental function instead of leadership role. So when you see your workers when you are using the leadership role, it means their strengths and their weakness are all what you have to imbibe with. You contain it. So for every now and then, you try to lead them to the right path, not to criticize them. Do you understand? Because managers, they have short-term plan. They are always short-term. They don't think about the long-term. But leaders, they think about the long-term. So managers, they want to get the results now. So most of the time, they use tactical approach. But for leaders, they use strategical approach. So that makes it different. So if you are seeing your staff as assets, it means you have to use leadership style with them. Is it clear? Is it clear, please?
Yes.
And the last one, chances for promotion. You must ensure that they are elevated. So every now and then, whenever there's internal recruitment, you should always think first your workers, not outsiders. So that would motivate them. Do you understand staff as assets here? Good. So we go to those workers, those employers that treat their workers as liabilities or cost. What do? The first one, they pay the legal minimum wage. So for them, just get your job done, we pay you based on what you have done. So they would not think about improvement in salary. They would not think about these things. It's not their problem. They only want to pay you what you signed on their contracts. So they will not reward you. There's nothing they want to do. You just get paid for what you have done. Do you understand the first point here, please? The second one, use a 0 hours contract. When we talk about 0 hour contract, it simply means employers will not guarantee you any hour of work. So whenever they need you is when they call you. If they don't need you, they don't call you and they don't pay you for that. So most of the time, businesses that use this are businesses that want flexible workforce. I want to talk about flexible workforce. Example of flexible workforce are the part-time workers. They do not have a specified period of time. So they only call you when they need you. Do you understand 0 hours now? Do you understand 0 hours now? So you don't have any guarantee about the hours spent. It is only when you work or when you are engaged that they pay you. Is it clear? The next one, neglect training. Like I told you earlier, because some businesses, they felt that when they train workers become attractive to employ to their competitors. So they might choose to leave, so they don't want to train. So this is the mindset of businesses or employers that see their workers as cost. They would neglect training, they would not invest in training. Do you get the point here? The next one, use financial incentives to raise productivity. What is productivity? Output against your input. So most of the time, employers that they see staff as cost, they would always want to use financial rewards to increase their motivation. They've forgotten that not all workers are financially motivated. Some workers are working because they are happy doing that job, not because of money. They are non-financial incentives. But firms employers that think about staff as expenses or staff as cost, they always think about the financial incentive, forgetting that there's non-financial incentive like job rotation, job satisfaction, which means workers are doing that job because they are happy. Some are doing that job because of self-appraisal. Some are doing that job because of self-recognition. So there are different reasons why people do job. But for those that see their workers as cost, they always think about the financial incentive to increase their productivity. Is it clear? Is it clear, please?
Yes.
The next one, penalties for employees who break rules or come late. They are the ones that would say, oh, if you are late, we'll deduct from your salary. Do you understand that point? And the last one, instead of going through the normal approach of recruitment process, they would rather find a means of doing their recruitment and selection by using cheap and inferior materials or cheap and inferior recruitment. So which simply means they won't think about quality, rather quantity when they are employing workers. That is the point. Do you understand what I'm saying here? Instead of employing workers with quality, they employ workers with quantity because they don't want to pay so much. So these are different approaches businesses use when they think about their staff. Any question about it?
No.
Thank you.